Alright, so we're back here. We'll be putting a quarter panel on an Erarly Bronco. So the idea would be to cut this panel off, probably do it about in here or so, come across the bottom of here, and work our way into the door jamb, which has been welded and somewhat either seam sealed or glued with panel bonding adhesive, which I believe is probably what they use to glue this on, and then down in here. So ideally we'll probably take a wire wheel, try to clean as much of this seam sealer panel bonding adhesive off as we can, then come back in and cut this off with a grinder and a cutting wheel. We're going to take the biggest chunk of this and get it out of our way to get that prepped and ready for the new quarter panel, which is ordered this from Tom's Bronco Parts in Medford, Oregon, and I believe this is Dennis Carpenter project. Got this from Tom's Bronco Parts. We're going to open this up and check out our new quarter. Alright, so we got this unwrapped and it looks pretty good. No dents, no dings, no big wrinkles or creases. Pretty nice product. Even coming with the factory single gas filler hole. Pretty good actually. So that's our new quarter panel. This quarter panel here is to match the front fender wheel well. You can see where the front wheel well. It's got a pretty big opening. It's got a real nice lip, and that's what this one's supposed to represent. Basically, before factory, they would have came with half a wheel well. Before, you had to cut the quarter to run a bigger tire and either leave it unfinished or run some sort of like fiberglass or a plastic fender flare. So we're going to go ahead and get this one cut out of the way and get the area cleaned up for us to test fit our new quarter panel. And to cut that panel out, we're going to use a 4.5 inch grinder with a cutting wheel and a wire wheel to get rid of our seam sealer. Now you can use any wire wheel on a drill, anything like that, but I prefer using one of these. So we'll go ahead and get that cut out and cleaned up for the next step. Alright, so now we got the quarter panel off and out of the way, and used a wire wheel basically to clean up the panel bonding adhesive. And they got some screws coming down from the top that we're going to have to address, which is we'll just grind these off when we pull this apart. Hopefully this is just glued all the way together. Factory spot welds would have looked more like that. However, we do not have that, and the last guy had spot welded here, kind of like that. So we can either try to drill this out and put a spot weld remover and drill these out, or we could take a cutting wheel or a grinding disc and we'll just grind those out of the way. I think we'll start with the spot weld driller tool, and then we will move on to the grinder. If that doesn't work, probably have to use both. But that's kind of where we're at. Same in the back here. It looks to me like they had glued it. Which probably factory would have been some spot welds in here, almost like those there. So we'll have to grind these off, cut these off, and try to separate this panel from here, and this panel stays. This is your stake pocket, and this is your taillight quarter. Now we got that quarter panel off and the metal cut out of the way. A bunch of that stuff there cut out of the way, and we got inside here cleaned up pretty well. This all 36 grit on a roll lock disc, and you can see where old spot welds were. So when you drill these out from our factory, when they're not glued in, you should have all these spot welds. So what we'll do is we'll come back through and drill these out and hopefully be able to get rid of some of that bed liner and then come in from the top and weld that in place. But first of all, we're going to see if this quarter panel fits. Got it all trimmed up and ready to go, and we'll set that quarter panel in there. I'll use something to kind of hold it in place. I use a clamp. On that side I put a little bolt over there and then used a big clamp to hold it in place, and then probably run some sort of a C-clamp down here, make sure that that nice clean straight panel doesn't fall off and get dented. Alright, so I did have to make a little bit of a notch here. It basically, and here. So this was actually all one piece and actually came across about there. And that little notch in there would not fit over and underneath this. So now I'll try to set that back on there after I made that little notch. Set on there. Basically we got like this, like kind of a softer clamp. I wouldn't say soft clamp, but clamp that doesn't really have a whole lot of pressure. And I just got that sitting there. I actually got a little bolt just kind of holding it from slipping this way. Hooked on here with very, not much pressure, just enough to kind of hold it. And I've got a big long pair of C-clamps down there, basically trying to reach up into this corner here to try to get it to squeeze together. And this side fits pretty good. We got a nice line here. Down here we're coming out a little bit, but I'm not sure if it's this panel or this panel. We'll push that in as far as we can, and if we have to modify this panel, we will. We got a nice line up here, or top of our door gap's just a hair big. I got a nice uniform gap down through here, and this here could technically come forward a little bit, like that was sitting about like there. That'll be a pretty nice gap. And now the next step would be I've got the body cleaned up, I've got the epoxy, seam sealer, panel bond adhesive, whatever it was, I've got that all taken care of. So the next step would be to take this panel off, clean this top edge, clean the back edge, clean the epoxy, this black E-coat off of it, go ahead and clean this edge, both sides, and then we'll run some small holes through here so we could plug weld this to where it needs to be. Same thing here. This edge here will actually leave, we won't punch holes in that, we'll come back through, and earlier I showed you some holes that were spot welded in there. We'll have to try to come back through here, try to clean this bed liner off this edge, so then we can weld from the top down to attach this. And this one here is going to be tricky. So I think what we can do is it's actually squeezed between, this is our stake pocket, and this piece here is our outer piece. So I don't know if you can see it pop it in there or not, but basically our panel is sitting between the two. So we should be able to reach in here and hopefully throw a couple welds just to kind of hold this part of it. And then from the back side, we should be able to get in here, drill a couple holes here, and plug weld this panel to this panel, which will be our stake pocket, or not our stake pocket, but our tail light corner. Then that's the plan for this. We'll see if we can't take this off and go ahead and get it prepped. Working this over, when I tacked this and I put one weld about here to hold that, and I'm still sticking out. However, I think careful to not crease this, I can slowly work that panel over and get in there and locked in. It's just a matter of kind of tweaking on her a little bit and just kind of gently working it. What it'll do is it'll either shrink or kind of bow that lip in just a little bit. You want to make sure you don't do it so hard that you put a big old fat crease out here. See, it's already kind of comes down, and so we don't want to put a crease here. This area here should hold that, but just kind of be careful, work a little bit. Best thing to do is probably get the next area where you're going to weld, which looks like it's going to be about here. And right there we got a real nice fit. And you want to take the next hole and get the next hole real close, so you're not moving this point so far. You're basically just going to hold that there and then slowly and carefully work that edge over, and hopefully we can get away with that. So I'm going to do that now. So we got it tacked in the top. Across through, we'll do a little bit of grinding on top of that. We've got our body line fitting real good along here. You know, we're trying to catch this body line, get this sucked up there, catch this body line, and then the arc of this roll. But all in all, we got this fitting real nice. Plus, we still got a pretty darn good door gap. Our gap's a little big, but I mean our door edge here, our quarter fits our door real nice, especially considering they're both aftermarket pieces. But overall, we'd have to say quarters aren't sticking out too far. Anything that needs to come out just a hair, huh? If we could do that, we can push that out. Which actually that looking pretty good. That's what it looks like. All done. And that's how I would put a quarter on one of these early Broncos. Now, if you like this style quarter, this new flare, remember, give the great guys at Tom's Broncos a holler. Check out their website, give the guys down there a call, tell them you're interested in that, tell them you saw this video and you're confident enough to do your own. If you like these kind of little instruction videos, give this a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe. Remember, get out there, create something today, even if it sucks. Peace.